All right, welcome everybody to the Synapse Philosophy Group. We already been jamming. I had to record, start turning it on because we're talking about spirit, our spiritual guides, Pasquale. We're talking about Arno, Ron Oberstein, amazing stuff in chiropractic, and we want to record it because this is for the ages to come. And we're on principle number 26, Stevensons Textbook, Comparison of Universal and Innate Forces. We're getting into the nitty gritty. He basically, Stevenson, and this is in the senior text, we're on page 265. What Stevenson has done is really taken us on a journey to open our minds to the basic principles of quantum physics, general physics, spiritual understanding, human consciousness and human being, and serving the human. I mean, this is really interesting stuff. And now the comparison of universal and innate forces. We're getting to what I see is his journey to the next step to brighten our minds so we can think more clearly and serve better. Let's put it in that sense. All right, that's my intro. So, you know what? Our main man is, Alan Lichter is such an amazing reader. Would you like to read tonight? I've been talking all day. I've been on fire all day. You got to understand. I've been like jamming day. Today has run so smoothly and amazingly that I'm absolutely in love with everything, and especially your voice. So let's rock and roll.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be able to read this section. It is an amazingly deep section of material here. So we'll start out. Okay, so you already said page 265 of the senior text of Stevenson, article 343, comparison of universal and innate forces, principle number 26. In order to carry on the universal cycle of life, universal forces are destructive and innate forces are constructive as regards structural matter. From our study of physics, we know that the universe is full of energy. We see it manifested in every bit of matter. There seems to be no limit to the amount of energy that may be in the space occupied by matter, but there seems to be a limit as to how much of it a given bit of matter can express. Yet that limit may be of astonishing proportions. Just what may be the electrical potential in, say, a pint of water or a marble? Like matter, energy cannot be destroyed, but we see its manifestations reappearing in many different forms. Hey, you let me know when you want me to stop the chit-chat.
I think we need to go a little bit farther.
That's fine. I just wanted to say you stop me. We observe that energy seems to travel, or at least it can express itself in matter at a distance from its source. We say that it travels by radiation and conduction. When it radiates, it travels swiftly, approximately at the speed of 186,000 miles per second. As well, it travels by radiation. However, it seems to like to pause and play around in matter. If this were not true, we could not have radio receiving sets, for the radio would scorn our aerials. So though it must travel much slower in matter, it seems that it really prefers that mode. With many forms of radiant energy, there can be interference with its transference. We will not say all forms, for we do not know, but we do know that an umbrella interferes with the sun's rays considerably. Lead hinders X-rays, brass hinders magnetic rays, etc. In matter, energy travels at a widely variable rate of speed, depending upon the form of energy and upon the kind of material and the shape of the material. Through some materials, a given form of energy will scarcely travel at all. Thus, we find that electricity prefers some metals, such as gold, silver, copper, iron, and the like, but it will not pass readily through glass or rubber. Heat will pass through silver, copper, and gold readily, but not glass, asbestos, etc. Magnetism passes through soft iron easily, but not brass or copper or gold and the like. Also, we find that since these forms are radiant, they will easily be caught by the kind of matter they prefer. there can be interference with the conduction of these energies, as when the conductor has a gap, or when its thickness is diminished. When interference with conduction is thus offered to a conducted form of energy, it will be transformed partly or wholly back into the radiant form or into some other form. As in the conductor of electricity, we find electricity, when it suffers interference, transforms into heat and radiates.
I'm going to pause there one moment, if you don't mind. Let's take
No
a
problem.
pause.
Good spot.
That's a really good spot, because the next part is mental energy, okay?
Yeah.
And, you know, in 1910, one of the main things DDU says is it's not like an electrical impulse. That's what one of those main tenets of bringing people back to true north, the chiropractor's adjuster. Now, what do you feel? Why do you think he spent so much time in this just right now? Anybody? Because we also have 3 more pages, or the bottom of this one, and, you know, basically 2.5 pages.
Yeah, almost 3 pages. Yeah. Well, we talk because he talks earlier. He compares mental impulses to and says and force. And we talk about force as an energy, as in physics. And so he wants to establish an understanding of the physics of energy in energy forms that are more common, that most people are more aware of, than the mental forces that relate to what innate works within the body.
Yeah. And remember, this is 1927, right? 1927, I don't know, they might still be using whale oil in some places, right? But, you know, he's talking about very, very complex things and trying to give us into a basic understanding so he can expound on it, which I think is really important. Yeah, exactly, Alan. Anybody else? Should we keep going? Alan,
hey, Monty, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, Monty.
Oh, what's going on?
Monty's going to DE this time.
We're on page 266 of Stevensons textbook, if you don't know it, Monty, right at the bottom where it says mental energy. All right, Alan, rock it out.
Okie doke. As we start the next phase here, mental energy in the body seems to obey the same laws. That pointed, there you go, right? It says it straight out.
Straight out.
Mental energy in the body seems to obey the same laws. As to its radiation, that is another story, and it's too lengthy and entirely too theoretical to be within the scope of this article. In the conductive form of mental energy, we have more data and plenty of its manifestations. We find that it too prefers a conductor and uses nerve tissue for its conveyance. What about what mental energy is, we are just as much in the dark as electricians are about electricity. But as electricians can do practical work, nevertheless, so chiropractors are not hindered by that lack of knowledge. Theories are a help and are progressive if they are based upon soundly established facts. And as the electrician bases his practical work upon theory, so can the chiropractor. Do we need a pause there? Should we go on?
Yeah, no, that's a good pause, because, you know, everybody, you know, the big term is evidence-based.
Yeah.
Right now. And he just says, really, you know, based on practical work, he bases his practical work, so can the chiropractor. He doesn't understand electricity, but he knows he can hook it up. It's practical. Same with the chiropractor. You know your adjustment's going to re-hook up this person. Just get on with it. That's what I seem to see here. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that this is so timely with the same issues that we have today.
Yeah.
That in chiropractic, that people say, well, you can't prove it. You don't have evidence. And we don't necessarily understand all of how it works, but you lay your hands on there and you do your job, and it can be truly miraculous what you see happen in front of you, and you know you didn't do it.
Yeah.
As we've said before, it's happened for all of us. People come in and they don't tell us everything that's going on, and a week later, 2 weeks later, they come in and say, "This changed.
Yeah.
What did you do?" And you go, "I removed the interference, and your body did the work."
My kids are happier, and I don't fight as much with my husband, or whatever it is. You hear those things. Life is better. Now,
I had a guy that said, that when he started coming care, his girlfriend said to him he was a much more loving person after, when he came to see me.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
what did I do? I didn't do anything there.
I've had a wife, a man who basically, you ever had someone comes in and like breaks up with you? I'm not going to see anymore. I just came in to say goodbye. I'm like, all right. And then I had a wife drag her husband back in. She said, he's not quitting. He's a much nicer person when he gets adjusted. Here you go. I'll pay for it, or whatever it was. I laughed at that. They were nice.
There you go.
Now I'm going to back up just 1 minute. Mental energy is in the body seems to obey the same laws as to its radiation. Okay, that means we're talking about outside the body. Heart math, they're trying to map that right now with the most cutting edge technology. They can't register more than 8 feet away from the body. Thinks it goes on faster. Then he says that is another story and is too lengthy and entirely too theoretical to be in the scope of this article. I couldn't wait to get back to that one, you realize. He's saying there are things so esoteric that I'm not really sure we can explain it right now. 1927, I don't know what year was Schrodinger and his cat, the beginning of quantum physics. They're trying to explain theoretical things and when the language doesn't exist yet, right? Or it's brand new. So I think that statement is like, yeah, there's more to this. I'm not sure how to explain it to you. And I love that. Okay.
And there's still more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We're just scraping the lottery ticket. We're getting to the first number. All right, let's go on. Okay. Where are we? You know where you left off. Was it let us study? Is that right?
Like other conductive form energy and suffer interference. Yes, let us study another phase of the universe. Well, I'll read that paragraph too. Like other conductive forces, mental energy can suffer interference by interposing a gap, by impinging the conductor, or by deranging its substance. Let us study another phase of universal energies. Universal intelligence, with its universal energies, fills all space in the universe and every spot in the universe. Any place without it would be outside of the universe, which is impossible and absurd. The body then is no exception. Universal energies permeate every cell, but there is this difference. In the body, normally, innate keeps these forces all balanced, controlled, adapted to her uses at all times, every moment. In fact, that is how she does her work, by using the universal energies she finds at hand. There are always plenty of them. Interference with her balancing forces, which she has assembled from universal supply, of course, prevents balancing and controlling the forces resonant in the tissues. Interference with transmission causes the universal forces in that given spot to be instantly unbalanced and therefore not behaving as innate wants them to. Of course, these universal forces must be expressed by matter, as any kind of force must be. That is a chiropractic fundamental. But what material have these universal forces, what material have these universal forces at hand to express them? Anyone can see that it's the tissue cell, and that is the spot we're talking about. Then, Then, this cell is expressing some physical or chemical forces without the management of innate intelligence. All the energies of the body must be controlled by innate by balancing, restraining, and augmenting them by the transmission of other forces from the universal source. This is innate's job, her mission in the body, her function. She can break no universal laws, create nothing new, but she can juggle the existing forces to build existing matter into structures to house her, and then continually juggle more forces to maintain that house. Let her vigilance be interfered with one moment, and the universal forces play pranks. That is, they are pranks according to Innate's estimation.
Let's pause right there. Okay. Go
What
ahead.
page are we on? What page?
That is
268.
the first, end of the first paragraph on 268.
And that is, there's a lot of great explanation of innate intelligence there. He's giving us decent description. And anybody have any insights there?
So you immediately have to be stay on focus.
Yeah.
That universal forces are destructive forces. That if they're not controlled and adapted, then they're going to cause a problem. And Innate takes universal forces and adapts them to maintain the body,
Yeah.
or whatever living thing it's in, to deal with those destructive forces. And if there's something that interferes with that, then the universal becomes immediately destructive and causes a problem. And Innate has to juggle things to try and keep it under control.
This is how he says it, right? All energies of the body must be controlled by Innate. What Innate's doing is balancing, restraining, and augmenting them by the transmission of other forces from the universal source. This is Innate's job, her mission in the body, her function. I think that's powerful. She can break no universal laws, create nothing new, but can juggle the existing forces to build existing matter into structure to house her. Innate is the spirit, the body is that house, and then continually juggles more forces to maintain that house. I mean, that's the housekeeper, it's the builder, the constructor, all those things. Let her vigilance be interfered with one moment, and the universal forces play the prank. That's the subluxation, is that interference. And then universal just does. It's just whammo, energy without restraint in any way or without guidance. Innate is the guider. So innate, I mean, we think about innate as a part of God's expression in the body, life, universal expression in the body, but it's so much more than that. It's the intelligence to be able to maintain this meat bag that we live in this living material suit, to house innate intelligence, her house, her castle. I think that's an amazing paragraph right there.
Yeah, unless we forget that innate is in every living thing, whether it's one cell organism or whether it's us and everything in between.
And universal is in all things, all corners of space, time, energy. It's all things, but with none of that guidance. Or with that guidance, but it would have to be the expression through innate intelligence. All from two haploids.
Innate is a part of, but apart from universal intelligence.
Apart from, but it's the thinking stuff without having educated thought. How does it know how to do that?
It's still the intelligence, but it's the adaptive intelligence that not controlled by in us an educated brain.
Yeah. Now,
the tree doesn't care. Tree doesn't have an educated brain. It just adapts.
Yeah, has a longer DNA chain than we do.
We have an educated brain that may be an interference to innate at times.
Yeah, BJ wrote a lot about that, right? He wrote mostly about that. He didn't write mostly about the Atlas. He talked about living innately, how to get out of educated. And that's what I do. That's what innate adjusting is. Getting away from our educated. All right. Organic matter. You ready to start the next one?
I'm ready.
All right. You're doing a great job, Alan. Thank you.
Well, thank you. For organic matter, there are adaptable forms of force. These forces show that intelligence has originated has originated them or managed them, and they are for the building and maintenance of living organisms. Should these forces be withdrawn, the living organisms revert back to the elemental state wherein their molecules act according to the unswerving laws of physics and chemistry. A living organism has signs of life, which is evidence that it is under the care of intelligence, evidence of special care. I want to stop there for a second, because this again it's a cycle here, and it says without innate, all we are is cells.
Yeah.
And we go back to being the matter that we came from.
Yeah. Once the spirit leaves, those molecules, everything goes back to its original form. It wants to go back into that energy. It's, the first thing that pops up in my mind at Halloween, is, a zombie jumping up out of a coffin. Okay, Nate's back. But, really it's being decomposed into a new composition, into something else, into another life cycle, right?
It's being decomposed back to its other natural state.
Decompose to recompose. I compose.
I suppose.
Pantyhose. All right. Good tonight, but it's a big one. So go ahead.
Having these forms of adaptability, sensibility, and the forces which govern the organism, it can respond to any new set of circumstances. Not unswerving action, but changing action according to the demands of the moment. In a collection of living cells, as a living unit, for instance, an animal, these forces come from a central point. This points out that intelligence in a well-organized unit has a headquarters. If we use the hypothesis that mental impulses are energies, then it must be a very carefully composed unit of energies prepared, created by innate in order to impel the cell to proper action, which must be coordinative. Mere action is not sufficient. That would be stimulation. It must be the right action in quantity, quality, direction, and time. We might conceive of this mental impulse as being composed of certain kinds of physical energies in proper proportions, which will balance other such forces in the tissue cell, as electricity, valency, magnetism, cohesion, etc., etc. Perhaps some of these energies are not known to us in physics. What right have we to assume that we have found them all? The writer presents this as a hypothesis or theory in order to get a working basis. In other places in this book, other theories for the same thing have been offered for the same purpose. Fini.
Yeah. Again, I go back to vital force and mental impulse. Dee would say vital, BJ would say mental, and the coordinator, it's just energy. It has to be directed. It has to have the light bulb vibrating to create the heat to get the light, or whatever you make an LED light out nowadays. But
it's still some sort of vibration that converts electricity to light.
Yeah.
It's a transformation of one form of energy to another.
Still, this concept is similar. So as electricity balances, what do you guys get out of that? I like his humbleness. In reality, is like there's so much more to know. He's in amazement, really. At the end of this, it's just like, I'm just so amazed, and there's so much more to know. I mean, in 1927, they were cutting edge. He was cutting edge, just as it is right now in reality. So, I mean, it's hard to believe it was written that long ago. It's almost 100 years now.
Stunning.
And it is every paragraph has been poignant for now and the future. Absolutely. And just as the humility, I could just feel that, the passion in that last paragraph, really, from Stevenson himself. Anybody else?
I like the let her vigilance be interfered with one moment.
Yeah.
And the universal forces play pranks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the subluxation, right?
That's right.
That's right. And then things run amok. Absolutely. I love it. I mean, he is well written. I really enjoy reading Stevenson's. I really do. All right. Anybody else?
This group and people that we are talking to are so lucky to realize what we have. That there's so many in our profession today that have turned their back on some of this work, and the information here and the acknowledgement of the power that's available through chiropractic to help people is just stunning. And so many of our colleagues just don't know, don't understand. I think that Danny Knowles had a question. He likes to pose questions to make people think, and he had one this week this week I think, that said, "What's the difference between a technique and art of chiropractic?" And I said, we all learn technique. Some people never take the time to understand that there's more available.
Yeah. When my father was dying, he was internal medicine in London, and he was dying at Sloan Kettering in Manhattan. They say is the greatest place to die for cancer, is the reality of it is, right? And, he said he was so sad. He said, there's nothing in the medical profession doesn't exist anymore. And he was schooled in the 1940s. And he said, they're all just technicians. And when I read that, when I saw that post, and I've had this talk a million times stage and talked about this, do we want to just be technicians with their making us a Leander table? I've got benefit from a Leander table, but you can teach nearly anyone to do that. You don't have to have as much art. And, that's, what they're talking about, flexion distraction. They're taking the art out of chiropractic in education now to allow for 9-month education, barely any time doing any adjusting. If it was by BJ 9 months, that'd be a different story. But in reality, we have a sacred trust. And without these types of groups, it's lost. And we have to reach the 100th monkey in the chiropractic student until we have change, and we have to work hard for it. Because without the richness, if you don't know the richness of these texts and what we get, a spiritual understanding and consciousness of the self first, and then the people we serve on the table, it to me is a blessing. Just like, Dee Dee said, chapter 1, the moral and religious duty. It's not a religion, but take this as a religion. This is your duty to go serve the people. And it is the spirit within we're adjusting. To me, we are doing something bigger than we even understand, but just understanding a little bit that I feel like I do, because the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. That we have something bigger than our current understanding of what chiropractic is. Dee Dee was just starting to get to it. And you know what? We're getting back to it because we're all philosophers on here. What he's doing is saying, look, I don't know. Go find out. That's what I read in that last paragraph. Go think about it. Pasquale, I used to ask him questions. He goes, look, I got answers from questions I had 40 years ago. Things are going to come to you. We're going to grow as our vibration grows. We're going to get consciousness and understanding that we didn't even realize as we climb up those rungs of Jacob's ladder. And as we get to where we're meant to be as chiropractors, I feel honored when I read something like this. This is the writer presents this as hypothesis or theory in order to get a working basis, give you a working basis to grow your understanding of what we're doing more. That's what he's telling us. Steve, you got something for us?
It's the drugs.
No, man.
I haven't taken Tylenol since 1 o'clock yesterday morning for the
Good.
pain.
Oh, it must be,
But,
it must be painful.
I don't want any of that shit. But for
How about,
me,
will you still let the nurses clean your batesum?
I let them do whatever needs to be done.
Go ahead, Steve.
So I wrote this on Facebook, is that chiropractic is the practical application of the basis of all religions, philosophies, poetry, that there is this pure, perfect, infinite intelligence, and interference to it, separation from it is the problem. Connection to it is the solution, no matter what religion it is, no matter what philosophy you have. And so chiropractic, you take philosophy out of chiropractic and it ain't chiropractic. And our philosophy is ancient. That's what I have to share.
It is ancient, 100%. And you know, Alan's son, our newest PhD in philosophy,
He's still working on that. He's still working. He's
on
not
his
quite there.
PhD.
Just published.
Closer, maybe help us in, you know, I took philosophy multiple times. I was thinking about a degree in philosophy once, and because I love it, but how to explain it? You think about, you know, it's easy to have a philosophy, it's getting it out, right? Plato, Socrates, and being able to teach it. That's the difficult part. And I know that's what your son's doing now as a PhD, right? You're teaching it.
He's teaching.
So, you know, that's what we really putting this in the basis of how to teach it. Because it's easier to teach in blurbs, and we teach from the stage for 45 minutes or what have you. Teaching this philosophy, because it's not easy to sum up in a paragraph or just an epigram.
You know what else? Philosophy. So philosophy, I graduated with honors in philosophy in undergraduate. And it wasn't because I worked hard. It just came from within.
Yeah.
But the point is that philosophy is a noun. It's a verb, at least according to my ancient Greek philosopher. When we do chiropractic philosophy, we are magnifying ourselves in alignment. It's a doing. Just like God, to me, or universal intelligence, isn't a thing. It's an activity that we take part in. So doing chiropractic philosophy is necessary in the practice of chiropractic. It's a doing. There's no universal intelligence out there. It's me expressing it. And that's what all Bill Bain, who had the largest chiropractic office ever, he says, you know, universal intelligence through expressing it. And your heart is healthy as long as that heart is expressing heartness. So it's all about us expressing that philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely, positively expressing this philosophy. And you have to be being made aware of it even before, because that's what I was really saying, is you got to be aware of it. The students aren't, the practicing chiropractors, I say students, 90% of the practicing chiropractors are not made aware. And I say 90% aware of our philosophy. And that's why I was just thinking, you know, if you and your son ever get bored and want to say, how can we teach philosophy better to students, at least the 33 principles, that would be an amazing thing to see a syllabus come out of how to teach this properly and to get our point across. I think that's worthy of some insights in the future.
It's interesting. I got interested in chiropractic. Well, I sort of stumbled on philosophy early on, even before I went to school, but I started at Sherman and I may have told this story here before, but I realized that the principles in philosophy were integral to chiropractic when, as a first quarter student at 7 o'clock in the morning, the first day of school, and every day, Tom Gilardi, the president of school, came in to teach us philosophy.
Man,
So this is important stuff. The president of school is here at 7 o'clock to teach a first quarter class. This must be the real deal.
Yeah.
This is what you need to know. What else is, I mean, that's the example. That's the truth.
Yeah. And we spend more time on the Krebs cycle, you know, in biochemistry in most classes, and we're not studying these things properly. We don't have Tom Gilardi any longer, but we have Alan Lichter that is in this class, and, you know, we put these things out, and his son becomes, you know, an amazing PhD because of his father's wonderful influence. And, you know, think about what this brings us, you know, because we've been doing this a long time, and I love philosophy, and I have a similar story. It was right when I kind of started chiropractic school, and I've never looked away from the philosophy. But as I read it, I get so much more out of it every time. The Bible, the Torah, wasn't meant to read once and say, yeah, it's a good book. You know what I mean? You read it, and you read it with new eyes every time.
It's constantly being reinterpreted.
Exactly. So, you know,
you by the way, as an aside here, you know, I know you live and talk about intention all the time in your work. So here's the title of the paper that he had published. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Promises, intentions, and reasons for actions.
Cool. Are you able to share it? Are we able to read it, or would he?
I don't have a copy yet of that. It's behind a paywall, and I think he's supposed to be sending me a PDF of it so that I can read it. Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's what innate is. That's what I learned early on in school. Or I say innate is your friend. You know, it is that friend within that has, you know, that's always on your side. We're the ones that torture it from the outside, stinking thinking, and, you know, not really thinking we're enough. And that's the chiropractor's trouble. Like our philosophy isn't enough. You know, oh, these guys wrote it in 1895 and 1927. It's not enough. I mean, it's rich.
We're ahead of the curve.
We're way ahead of the curve. Way ahead of the curve. They didn't, you know, it's amazing. The next one, we're not going to do number 27. We'll save it for next time. But it's the normality of innate intelligence. You know, I love that one. The very first line is the principle of the triune of life. That's what we're going to get into next. Innate intelligence is always normal. Its function is always normal. When you have a cold, you know, we have kids coming in, which is nice to see kids sniffling and sneezing in the office again. They're normal. Parents aren't just locking them in closets when they have a cold. And I tell them that's normal. That mucus needs to get out. Let it get out. You know? So, you know.
Because you sneeze because the body's trying to get rid of something.
Yeah. You know, the moms now, I'm seeing the kids, well, they kept them out of school. They bring them in to get adjusted. We have some sniffling and sneezing. I blow a couple of noses, and they went home. I felt like things were actually, today was one of the most normal days with snotty kids, you know, crying. We had a blowout with the diaper and all kinds of stuff. And it felt like a really normal day, which was great. It was really great. Mucusy kids, you're not seeing as much. Where are they all? You know, they're drugging them up. It might not be giving them the other thing, but they're also trying to stop these symptoms because they don't want to be judged in public too. You got to understand where parents are coming from. It's not easy out there at all right now for parents.
No.
Being a parent of a 5 and 7-year-old, you know.
Well,
So
for any of us, you think about it, you cough in a grocery store and you go, what are they all thinking?
I ate Thai food the other day, and I said, give me Timmy Thai hot. Give it to me. I'm blowing my nose, my eyes running, all the chairs. I see people moving away from me. Like, that's how to do it. That's how you do it. All right.
I'll get you social distancing.
You unmuted. What you got? Anything?
Who are you talking to?
But Steve, I just saw you unmuted, so I was just giving you a moment if you needed one.
I just want to let you know that I broke my foot in a few places, my clavicle in 2 places, my ulnar, my elbow, and I got a slight fever. Thank God.
Yeah. Thank goodness that fever. Yeah. If you didn't, I'd be kind of worried, right?
You know that I think that for every degree increase, your heart beats more quickly.
A little vigorously. Yeah.
Getting the white blood cells and everything to it.
It's amazing. It's
My
amazing
nurse
when you
came in, I gotta go.
see you, Steve. That's
See ya.
amazing when you think about the how the body can manifest an increase in heat, and that's just so fascinating.
You know, what makes the blood hotter? How do you get hotter? It's like
innate uses innate forces, universal forces, and adapts universal forces and juggles them to do what she needs them to do.
yeah. I mean, there's no stove to turn up the thermostat.
All right, I'm
How do you,
decent.
like right now, I'm like, I'm thinking about how does your
indecent.
blood
Now
get
I'm
hotter?
decent.
It's just amazing. I'm gonna mute Steve right there. So yeah, guys, it's been a good night tonight. And we got a lot of information. And anybody have any closing remarks? Anything else you want clarity of? Monty, you doing good?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Monty, tell Haig and Alan what's your definition of chiropractic, brother, so we can close this out as a lay person.
My definition of chiropractic, from what I understand, right now is, I've been placed on this earth to remove any type of interference that is causing another to not experience life in equality and the way in which an individual should experience, and we all have. One of the things that's really been resonating with me is like the same thing, same idea as like an equal employment opportunity. We have an equal life opportunity and an opportunity to experience this life at its fullest. And coming into this, I want to be able to remove this understanding of a subluxation, which is that interference of that communication from the brain to the spine and the spine to the nervous system, and ultimately open up the pathways for life to be experienced. And I'm really blessed to be here. And you had mentioned the student that is the hungry monkey. I'm a hungry lion. I want to become a king in this. I really have been ignited, and I'm blessed to be here and to be in your guys' presence and knowledge, and just to be, I'm sponge-like right now. So thanks for
Well,
having
we're
me.
grateful that you're here, and don't hesitate to participate, because you've got a good grasp on it already, and we'd love to hear what your thoughts are as we go through this stuff.
I love it. Absolutely, Monty. I want you to go just look up the 100th monkey. And it's a theory. When we reach entropy, we have change when we reach the 100th monkey. It's an interesting concept, but I love the hungry lion. I might use that one later on. I like the hungry lion. That's absolutely awesome. Guys, it has been fantastic. Monty, I hope you join us next week. We do the same time every week. Actually, next week we're taking a short break just for a week. Alan's out. I'm opening a second office, and I need a little bit of time next week to rest. I'll be quite honest with you. There's a lot going on. So we're going to take a skip next week, and then we'll be on the week after. Sound good for everybody?
Back with number 27.
Right, exactly. 269. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Love and appreciate you guys. Boa noite.